Hi, I'm Mindy from the United States. Before we begin my tale, please like and subscribe. I always liked history and the secrets of the past. Even when I was a child, the stories of the Roman Empire and dinosaurs fascinated me. Needless to say, history was my favorite subject. But there was one thing that made history class a chore. My rival and headache, Timmy. Don't let his name fool you. He was a nightmare. You see, like me, he was obsessed with history and the stories of the past. So what was the problem? He was a total jerk, that's what. He always scored higher than me in history class, and he always had the most smug grin about it. Considering our similar interests, it didn't take long for us to form a lasting rivalry. It even extended to our time in high school.
Oh, so close, Min. Did that question about the French Revolution stump you?
I would have had time to think it over if you didn't make those stupid faces when the teacher wasn't looking.
Not my fault that it makes you giggle.
I did not giggle.
Sure. Not like you could have beaten my score anyway.
And there it is, a perfect score. How the...
Better luck next time, Mindy.
God, I hate that smug grin. One of these days, I'm gonna wipe it off his face. Yeah, getting 2 straight 100s would restore my honor. But that never happened. Due to some family emergency, Timmy had to move abroad. I decided not to say goodbye. I turned away and let him leave me behind. At first, I celebrated. No more teasing, no more childish competition, and no more of his smug grin. But as the school year passed by, I had to admit it. I missed him a bit. There was no real challenge anymore. Eventually, I did start getting back-to-back perfect scores, but it wasn't the same. My parents were so proud of me. I was happy, don't get me wrong, but it was just so easy. It didn't feel like an accomplishment anymore. So, the years went by like a blur. I went to university and worked to get my archaeology degree. All the while, I volunteered as a museum tour guide. It was fun getting to teach people about my favorite subject, but something was always missing. But all that changed when I met Antonio one day after work, a tall, dark, and handsome older student working on his business administration degree. At first, I wasn't that interested, but he quickly impressed me with his knowledge of history. You also study archaeology?
No, but I do dabble. I'm more on the business side of archaeology. I like helping those more talented than me reach their full potential.
And you're saying I'm...
Yes, I'm saying you're talented and I want to work with you. What do you say? We can discuss details over coffee.
Well, all right. After my volunteering work, though.
Of course.
The day was set, and it was wonderful. After so many years, I finally found someone else who shares my passion for history. We spent hours talking, mostly about my job in the museum, something I was happy to talk about. For the next 2 months, my days were spent with Antonio. We studied, worked, and had fun together. We were a couple in all but name. For some reason, I was never able to take that step with him. But the next day, things would be different. I was going to ask him out. That plan, however, burned up while I was working at the museum and leading my current group. And here, we have what some would call the secret map to the Akashic records. Legend says, if you can crack the code, you can find the record buried in some desert. It's believed the record details the written language of actual angels. But that's just a myth and doesn't...
Actually, it's believed the record is the written account of all events throughout time. You're thinking of something else, Mindy. You never were one for the stranger side of history.
That voice, it can't be. Tim?
Oh. You must have missed me if you're using my nickname.
No, I didn't. Shut up. I tried to deny it, but I had missed him. Even his familiar smug grin didn't cause me to groan. Wow, he really grew up. He almost looked hot. No, think of Antonio. I'm supposed to ask him out on a real date today. But that's when I noticed something. Timmy just corrected me in front of my tour group. That's not what the Akashic records are about.
Really? Well, I'm sure it doesn't relate to the language of angels.
How would you know? Have you ever seen the records?
Have you? Admit it, Min. I got you beat once again, and I've only just come back.
Before we could get into one of our serious debates again, someone entered into the equation.
Are you okay, Mindy? Is this guy bothering you?
No, he...
Oh, you must be Antonio. Nice to meet you.
You know each other?
No, I don't think so. Do I know you?
Nah, but I know you. Upcoming businessman with a strong interest in history, archaeology, and people. Word gets around.
But I have never heard of you or your relation to Mindy.
I've been away for a long time.
Maybe you should have stayed away. Mindy clearly doesn't want you here.
Now wait a minute,
She should be the one to decide, don't you think?
I think she has. The question is if you will comply or will I have to call security?
Didn't know you owned the place, or are you getting to that?
Red lightning cracked between their gazes. My tour group was slowly backing away, and I was at a loss for words. What in the world was going on? My salvation came in the form of my boss, who quickly ended the tense confrontation. Timmy gave me a wink before leaving. Antonio stayed with me the rest of the day, which was sweet of him, but I couldn't get what happened out of my mind. I should be mad, but despite everything, a smile was slipping. Timmy was back, and it was like he never left. We easily picked up where we left off, bickering like an old married couple. Not that I want to marry him. He was still insufferable. So because of that, I completely forgot to ask Antonio out. Well, maybe next time. But the next time never came. Timmy showed up every day afterward. We would bicker and argue over historical facts. I actually remembered more facts correctly this time. It didn't wipe that grin off his face, but I couldn't bring myself to care that much. The fun ended every time Antonio came, and that's when the guilt crept in. I'd been putting off asking Antonio out, and I don't know why. I liked him, and I was quite sure he liked me too. Wasn't it wrong of me to be talking with Timmy so casually? For me to so easily fall back in step with another guy? It wasn't fair to Antonio, but it also wouldn't be fair to Timmy to ignore him. This cycle of guilt continued for almost a month until Antonio pulled me aside one day during work.
I think you should stay away from that Timmy guy. He might be looking to steal something from the museum.
What? This is Timmy we're talking about. He loves history. He would never...
Based on what you told me, he's obsessed. Worse still, you haven't seen him in years. He's not the same person you knew.
What Antonio didn't know was that Tim loved this stuff as much as me. If I wouldn't do it, then I'm sure he wouldn't. But the thought wouldn't leave my mind. It got worse when I started noticing things. I thought Timmy was here for me, but he did spend a lot of time just looking around. The problem was what he was looking at. Cameras, the guards, and especially the Akashic Records map? No, he wouldn't, right? He's not like that. But how well did I know Timmy? He'd been gone for years. Who knew what could have happened during that time? These thoughts haunted my nights, and they wouldn't go away. So I made a decision. If I couldn't sleep, I may as well stake out the place, like in the movies. If Timmy was innocent, I wouldn't see him there, and all I'd lose is sleep. But if I did find him, I had no idea what I'd do. So for the next few days, I kept watch of the museum at night, hoping and praying not to see Timmy. But my prayers weren't answered. A week in, I saw him, Timmy, picking the lock and entering the museum. My heart shattered. Timmy betrayed me? Me? Of all people, his rival? I couldn't let this stand. Thoughts of sleep faded away to thoughts of doing what I've always wanted to do, but never found a reason for. Punching Timmy in his stupid face. I carefully followed Timmy's trail through the dark museum. When the coast seemed to be clear, I picked up the pace and ran towards the room where the map was. And to my horror, it was gone. And standing not too far away was Timmy. I was too mad to think. I stormed over and punched him in the face, hard enough to knock him down.
Min?
Don't you ever call me that again! How could you? Stealing a historical artifact? Breaking and entering? Using me to get close to it?
I didn't steal it. Mindy, listen,
No, you listen! I was wrong to trust you. I don't know why I ever did. It's not like we were ever really friends. But I thought you at least understood me, that you loved history as much as me and would never do something like this. I couldn't stop my tears from falling from my face.
Mindy, I didn't steal it. Look at me. If I did, then where is it?
You must have hidden it when you heard my footsteps.
That big thing? Really, Min, you're smarter than that. Min, please trust me. You're the last person I would want to hurt. So believe me when I say I would never do something if it meant it would upset you.
For the first time, Timmy actually looked dead serious. For a second, I believed him, but if he didn't steal it, then...
I guess I have to deal with you both.
Timmy got in front of me to protect me from whoever spoke, but I instantly knew that voice. Antonio?
I'm sorry it had to come to this, Mindy. I really did enjoy your company.
I knew you were after the map. Didn't think you could bribe the guards to leave, though. I was surprised by how empty the place was.
Why, Antonio? All this time, it was Antonio who was using me. I was too focused on Timmy to realize.
Why? Because regardless of which one of you is right about the map, I'll be rich after I sell the records.
Money? Really? Typical.
That map and the record, if it exists, belong in a museum, not in the hands of some rich collector.
It's not up to you, I'm afraid.
Before he could reach into his pocket, Timmy tackled him with surprising speed. The two started to grapple, tear, and pummel one another as I stood frozen in my spot.
Run, Min! Call the police while I hold this guy off!
I listened, not because I wanted to, but because my instincts kicked in. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to be dragged into this big conspiracy. I just wanted to get my degree, find a job, find a husband, and live a normal life. Husband. My steps slowed to a crawl as I looked back at my time with Tim. Despite the frustrations, I also loved my time with him. And when he left, a hole was born. A hole I thought Antonio could fill. But instead, he was just an imposter. The person I wanted to ask out, the person who makes me smile, it's clear who it is. He's someone I couldn't bear to lose permanently. So I ran. This time, to find something to save him with. Quickly, I found the first thing that looked like it could hurt Antonio. Spear believed to have been used by our ancient ancestors. I ran back to the two men and found Antonio standing over Tim, ready to end him.
Your father would be so disappointed in you.
With all my strength, I swung the blunt end of the weapon across his head. Thankfully, it knocked him out, but it also broke the spear.
Whoa, did you, little Miss Historian, just break a historical artifact?
I'd do it again for you. I actually made Tim blush. I helped him up, but I didn't let go of his hand.
Min,
You don't have to say anything, okay? So what now?
We clean this place up, call the police, and find the map. I'm sure he didn't move away from the museum just yet.
So that's what we did. The map, thankfully, was recovered from a closet. Tim was right. Antonio didn't have time to properly move it. After that, we were congratulated by the city and the museum for our brave actions. We were even given $10,000 for our heroics. Antonio was sent to prison, and Tim joined me at the museum. But something tells me our adventures are far from done, if Tim's knowing smirk is anything to go by.